I think we might disagree on this one, but I feel like I feel like Israel's trying to instigate a war there, and they're trying to bring U.S. in it. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think Israel was foolish on how they secured their southern border, but Israel didn't start this one.
Fight back! Fight back!
Hey, Jake Shields here, about to hit a podcast with General Flynn. Thank you so much.
It's great to be here with you, Jake, and your audience, and just thanks for all that you're doing. And you're an amazing guy, and I'm honored to be here on your show.
Thank you. Yeah, this came together super last minute, like an hour ago.
Yeah.
I heard you were here with the Hodge twins, so we're in the Twin studio. That's why people are like Twins podcast, but they let me use it real quick because you got to go to the airport. But let's just jump right in. I hear you were trying to audit the black budgets before.
So one of the things that I did when I first went into the Defense Intelligence Agency was I called for an audit of the organization that I ran. Mm-hmm. And because one of the things that you learn from an audit, it's not just about the money, it's just about how processes and systems work. You know, are you meeting the standard? Are you up to doing the things that you're supposed to be doing, that you're directed to do, particularly in the government and also in that case in the Department of Defense. So and that was one of the largest intel agencies in the world, the Defense Intelligence Agency. So fast forward, I helped Donald Trump win in 2016. The presidency of the United States of America, and he asked me to be his national security advisor. So in that job kind of sits on top of a whole bunch of different organizations, principally the intelligence community. And what I wanted to do there is I wanted to do something similar to what I did at DIA. I wanted to do an audit, and now this black program, right? And I started in on that first. I really started to hone in on that. What that means is these are programs that are, they call them the black programs, but they're not, they're classified. They are normally, almost 100%, they are based on a finding that the President of the United States has signed off on. Mm-hmm. But in the case of Trump, he hadn't signed off on any. He wasn't even aware of them. I was aware of some, not all, but as a national security advisor, I got briefed on all. And when I did, and I knew what some of them were, most of them are outdated, but huge amounts of money are coming in for them. So, I mean, I'm talking
billions, right?
Billions and billions and billions, tens of billions, and they're outdated, but the money still flows, and you got to kind of say, okay, why does that thing still exist? Yeah. It was created in the 50s or the 60s, and you kind of go, this is 2020, this is 20, at the time it was 2016, 2017. It's like, that thing's 40, 50 years old. Yeah. Didn't we accomplish that?
Yes.
And so because they're black, nobody knows about them except for a very, very, very small group of people in the government.
Yeah. Is there a lot of things like, I mean, obviously some things are useless, but are there some things that are like pretty bad, like MK Ultra type stuff?
So there's and to not get into the classified side of what they are, these are programs that, at one time they probably had some meaning and some intent that would achieve some outcome. And what you learn is that, okay, so that one right there, which I'm familiar with, and I'm looking at it like I'm looking at this right here, and they're showing me all the stuff, and I'm looking at it and I go, okay, so you're not telling me what was this, was it successful? Okay, why don't you know if it was successful? Now, well, we got to come back and we're going to have to brief you on that, because a lot of times some of these programs, they don't achieve the success.
Yeah.
Actually, they hurt people, right? Mm-hmm. And they will hurt our security. They will hurt the safety and security of the American people. They'll hurt the prestige of our country overseas or right here at home. They might even hurt some of the people that were involved that made the decision to run these programs. That some of these people are still alive in some cases, right? So, or they might talk to assassination programs that we have, as an example. So there's a lot of things that, and that's just one element of the government that the National Security Advisor has purview over, and some level of control and decision making and influence. Mm-hmm. And these are important things. And to me, I mean, I'm all about what is best for the country. Mm-hmm. and what is best for the people of this country. And I don't want to waste government resources, which are the people's resources, right? I don't want to waste taxpayer money on things that don't matter anymore, or programs that I know are corrupt and just totally they're defunct of any actual consequence anymore. They're not doing anything for anybody. But there is a money flow that keeps coming from Congress because there's only a few people that know about these. Yeah. So when somebody goes, well, what is this thing? Well, you can't see it because it's classified. It's a national security thing, right? Whatever that is.
My guess would be somewhere working against the American people too.
Yeah,
things like spying on us.
Oh no, it's all that. It's kind of like A, B, C, or D, right? D being all the above. It's all the above, and so that's where our government is at. And the word that we use, or a couple of words, one is politicization. Mm-hmm. So it's you politicize something, the intelligence system, the intelligence community, the intelligence analysis, or you weaponize something. You weaponize the government. You weaponize the justice system. You weaponize the FBI against the American people. You weaponize the CIA, who's supposed to be doing things overseas, analyzing the enemies that we face overseas, across the board. And they're actually weaponized against the people of this country.
Yeah, I knew they were weaponized against us, but what really woke me up is the whole Russia collusion hoax. I wasn't down in politics before that, but I started following really closely. And to me, it was just so obviously a scam. And then all over TV, it was Russia collusion, Russia collusion.
Right.
I lived in San Francisco. Almost all my friends thought I was crazy when I was like, this is completely made up.
Yeah, it was a made up. So, it was all based on a lie. It was all based on a lie, Jake. I mean,
you know more than anyone.
Oh my God! I mean, right. I was right at the center of it. In fact, I was the principal target to get out of the way to go after Trump. And in fact, through the fight that I ended up taking on against the Department of Justice and against the government to expose them, and they eventually dismissed my case, which is fascinating. Most people think I was convicted, and if you asked an audience of 100 people, 90 of them, if you asked an audience of 100 people and said, how many of you were sorry that General Flynn had to go to jail? 90 people would raise their hands. I never went to jail.
Yeah, it's crazy. I thought
never
you were
convicted.
I thought you were convicted, but then right before I did, I wanted to brush up on you, and I saw the case was dismissed, but then it was so confusing written up, but then wait, they threw the case out.
Right.
I thought there was conviction too.
Right. I did plead guilty. I pled guilty for one specific purpose, and that was because of them going after my son, my oldest son, which was unbelievable.
So dirty.
And the film, Flynn delivered the truth, whatever the cost. In that film, I talk about that because it has to do with mental health issues and difficult times that my family goes through. Right? I mean, guys. So everybody goes, "Oh, he's a general." Hey, shit. We all got problems in our families, right? I mean, I'm nothing special. I'm like anybody else. I just happened to work hard to get to where I was, just like
Yeah,
about working hard to become a world champion. I mean, you just people can think what they want, but. In 2017, 2018, I was the most Googled name in the world. And if you Google my name, you're going to find he committed treason. He's a traitor. He's working for Vladimir Putin. I mean, it was all based on a lie. That lie started from a document that was created by Hillary Clinton and her campaign to go against Trump, to use it as a lie to say.
Right, that was proven.
Oh no, the whole thing. I mean, this is all factual.
Yeah.
So the document was going to be used to show that Russia wanted Trump to win, when it was just the opposite. Actually, Russia wanted Hillary to win, and so that's what they did. Now her campaign and Hillary created this document. They then inserted it into the U.S. government, into the intelligence community while Barack Obama was president. Mm-hmm. And John Brennan, former director of the CIA, on the 3rd of August, 2016. Okay, so I'm not just saying shit. Yeah. I mean, these are exact things. 3 August 2016, John Brennan, director of the CIA, presents that to Barack Obama. So Barack Obama later on told the American people he didn't know anything about it, right? He did. He was given that document. He was given it on the 3rd of August 2016 by his director of the CIA, and they knew then, okay, this is happening, so we're going to let this thing play out, because they didn't want Donald Trump to win, and they actually didn't believe he was going to win anyway. Mm-hmm. But they didn't want him to win, so that was going to be one of the sort of the the insurance policy to make sure that he didn't. And then
they
if
even said that, I believe, in interviews.
Exactly. Actually, the director of counterespionage for the FBI, his name is Peter Strzok.
Oh, yeah.
He's the one that said it to his girlfriend, who was he was married. The girlfriend was the number 2 lawyer in the FBI, Lisa or Paige, and they're sleeping together. And he says, "Don't worry about it, honey. We got an insurance policy in case this happens." Well, you're looking at the insurance policy, okay? And so fast forward, on the 5th of January of 2017 is the day that the coup began, and on that day in the Oval Office, another meeting with Barack Obama and Joe Biden, current president Joe Biden. He was vice president at the time. Director of National Intelligence, Director of the CIA, Director of the FBI, National Security Advisor, and Acting Attorney General for the United States were all in that meeting, 5th of January, 2017. And in that meeting, they decided we got to get Flynn out. We cannot have Flynn be in that job because it would be too dangerous for us, and we were not going to be able to go after Trump because Flynn, like they say, knows where the bodies are buried, and I do.
Yeah, we'll go to it later, but I think they probably don't like some of your policies. But it's to me, I lived in San Francisco during all that, and it was so concerning to me that a lot of my liberal friends didn't care that they were doing a coup just because they didn't like Trump. Like they were trying to do a coup against Joe Biden. I would be
so when you say your
concerned.
liberal friends, are they Democrats?
A lot of them have switched over. I've switched most of my friends over.
Well, to being Republican, but at the time, if they were liberal, they're probably Democrat.
I
was a Democrat.
Yeah,
I was a Democrat. I was a Democrat when I went into the White House. When I went into the, I was a Democrat. When I ran and helped Trump win, because this is not about Democrats and Republicans anymore. This is about communism and whether or not we're going to have a country called America and be based on a constitutional, be based on on the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and have a rule of law that's effective and fair for all. I don't care whether somebody's purple with pink polka dots. What I care about is that we have a fair system of government that takes care of its citizens, protects the safety and security of our citizens. I served in the military for a long, long time. I was born on an Army base. My father was a retired sergeant. He was part of the European invasion during World War II. He fought in Korea for 2.5 years. I mean, my old man was a tough Irishman, and I have brothers and sisters who have served in the military or married to guys in the military. My whole family's, I have a son serving overseas right now. I have a brother who's still in the Army. So I mean, that's my family, and I was a Democrat. My family was Democrats, and so they came after me because it was like, we can't have this guy in there. Yeah. And part of it was because, Barack Obama appointed me into 2 really critical jobs. Because Barack Obama, he made me director of the Defense Intelligence Agency.
Yes, you had like massive positions in government.
Yeah,
like you were some small guy they went after.
No, it's exactly. And I was the most senior intelligence officer in the entire Department of Defense in uniform.
So you had full clearance to everything, all the
completely. And then when I went into the as the national security advisor for Trump, I had full access and sat there next to Trump when we got fully read on to the entire nuclear code and nuclear, systems and processes that we have. So I had access to all these things, and as the leader of the largest, one of the largest intel agencies in the world, I had massive access to all kinds of knowledge, right? And programs and activities, and they knew. The president of the United States, Barack Obama, during his transition after Trump won the presidency, the first meeting that they had, Barack Obama tells Donald Trump not to hire me.
Wow.
Obama hired me twice, right?
That's so weird.
I'm a Democrat. Trump knew I was a Democrat. But I didn't, like I say, I don't give a shit about politics. What I care about is the country, and because the politics thing, especially in the military, I never even thought about it. In fact, the entire time that I was in the United States military, I never voted for president one time, not once. I believe in the vote, and I believe in the privilege of us being able to vote, but I never voted for president because I always felt like he's my commander in chief. I don't give a shit which one it is. I don't care what.
You're just serving the country.
He's the commander in chief. The country decide. But the more I look at it, I mean, what I do believe we need in this country is we need strong leaders. We need really strong leaders who are honest, who are authentic, and who give a shit and who love this country and have demonstrated that by years of experience, labor, fighting for it, and standing up for it and not denigrating it and talking bad about it. And that's what we have with some in our country right now that are in the political leader, that are sort of in this political class of our country. And for me, all I really want, honestly, brass tacks, what I really want is I just want to be able to kind of, cool out with my family. I spent 33 plus years in the Army, 5 years in direct combat operations overseas against our enemies. And, people go, oh, General, hey, you don't you don't just become a general. You work your ass off for it.
Obviously,
it's like
you don't get there for,
It's like being a champion, right?
It was easy getting a world title. Like, no.
You get into the ring, but to get you into the ring took you getting up in the morning early, working your tail off, discipline, everything, right? All the hard work to become a champion. It's the same thing in any walk of life. If you want to get to if you feel like I can do that, and I think that I can be a good person, and I can do that kind of a job, and I hate to use the word proud, but I feel confident that I gave it my all. I left everything on the field, particularly when I was in the military, and then even when I went into work in the government again, and I wanted to do the right things for our country. And the other side of it, though, because it's not just about Republicans and Democrats like I've been talking about, and it's not about just about Barack Obama and what Barack Obama was given by Brennan or told in that meeting or what he directed in that meeting on the 5th of January. It's also about the people that were around Trump. And the people that were around Trump,
he had the best cabinet in my opinion.
Well, also his pick for vice president.
Yeah, I agree. I
Mike
like
Pence.
Trump, but I didn't love some of his people.
Yeah, so Mike Pence turned out to be a real horse's ass, and somebody who, frankly, I think was backstabbing the president
the whole time, probably.
Right? I think the whole time, and there were people, and we talk about this in the film because we have specific evidence. There were people in his office, in the office of the Vice President of the United States, that were undermining the President of the United States. In this case, Pence, the Vice President, people in his office that he hired, were directly undermining Donald Trump while he was trying to be President of the United States.
Yeah, it's traitors. It's the FBI, the CIA.
So what I just said is, people should just be going, what the hell?
Yeah, it's like these guys are all, it's treason, it seems like almost.
Well, and that's a strong word, and it's but and there were some that committed treason.
I think with the FBI, I would say treason would be fair.
Oh, well, so there's an accountability that must be had, if we're ever going to move this country forward.
Has anyone gone to jail on this?
Huh?
Has anyone on the other side gone to jail? The FBI,
nobody.
the CIA,
As far as I know. I don't even think some of these guys have been,
fired. Even a lot of them
brought in or investigated. The Durham investigation really didn't bring hold any of these people to account. And I think, if I remember right, I don't think Durham even questioned Mueller. And the Mueller investigation. You don't even hear about Mueller anymore because Mueller's probably worse than Joe Biden.
Yeah, it seemed like he didn't do anything when he saw his report. He seemed
Mueller,
confused.
At the end, his sort of 5 o'clock shadow grew by about noontime, and he just wasn't all there, and that was clear in his testimony. It was actually embarrassing.
Yeah, it was bad.
And so we now have a situation in the country where the justice system has been weaponized against just regular people.
Lots of people. January 6th protesters,
the J6ers who
30 years in jail.
Yeah, Clay Higgins, who's a congressman from Louisiana, former county sheriff, turned political, and he ran for the House of Representatives. He's one of the lead investigators in Congress for the J6, and he's the one that came out and in questioning and digging and working with whistleblowers, and he's the one that came out and said that there were over 200 FBI resources, people on the ground on J6. Well, to me, it's like the whole J6 thing was like, what was this about? So if there's over 200, let's just say there's 200 FBI resources, meaning people, agents, or sources that were on the ground on J6. You don't just show up. You don't call these guys up at 5 o'clock in the morning on January 6th.
Yeah, it was planned for sure.
And say, hey, come on and show up. We're going to have some fun today. To have that many, it takes command and control. It takes communications. It takes logistics. It takes transportation. And we now know that many of these guys came from other parts of the country. So they had to fly in. They had to bring them in. They had to put them up in hotels or wherever they were going to put them up. And then they had to get them together to coordinate how they were going to act. So this thing was a setup.
Yeah, these are probably the black budgets.
It's a setup. The J6 unselect committee that was run by Benny Thompson out of Mississippi, Congressman Benny Thompson out of Mississippi, they destroyed all the evidence out of the J6 committee. I went in front of that committee. I took the fifth in front of that committee because it was my right, because I knew it was total bullshit.
Yeah, it's rigged.
Steve Bannon is in prison right now for 4 months.
Dang.
Okay? Peter Navarro went to prison for 4 months, federal prison in Miami. Steve Bannon's up in Danbury. They're in prison right now.
Yeah, there's people doing 30 years in prison.
There's guys doing
like 5 years for murder in San Francisco and Oakland.
Unbelievable.
That's unreal.
So, and the committee that did this, that started this mess, the Nancy Pelosi Unselect Committee, they destroyed the evidence.
I didn't even know that. That's insane. Like, that's illegal, obviously, right? So how do they get away with that?
Exactly.
Like, again, no arrest by no investigation.
And this is why I have very, very little time for members of Congress who are members of the grand old party, the GOP, and they created this weaponization subcommittee to the committee, the House Judiciary Committee, which is supposed to do investigations like this. They created this weaponization committee with a bunch of members of Congress on both sides, but the Republicans are in charge, so they can do things. They can hold people in contempt. They can do a lot. They've done zero.
Nothing.
They haven't even brought in
a border for us. They could have
Russiagate, J6.
They could shut down the country until they bring a border, but they won't do it.
The Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, can shut the government down, and so here we are with 90 days left to the most consequential presidential election in our history, bar none. And where's Congress? They're on recess. They're on their summer recess for almost 6 weeks.
Yeah, I lean right, but the Republican Party's been such a disappointment.
I don't
call myself a Republican.
Yeah, they just. That's why I say it's not Republican and Democrat anymore. This is either about we're gonna save this country, or we're gonna lose this country. And instead of being the United States of America, we will become the United Socialist States of America, and it'll happen very, very quickly if we don't get this election right. And I'm all for Trump. I'm all in on Trump right now. That's what I believe, because I believe he's the leader.
Definitely better than Kamala.
He's the leader that we have, right now, and he's already proven himself as a president. He's already done some great things as a president, and everything that we've seen that they continue to attack him on, destroying his family, destroying his business, trying to destroy him, and now trying to kill him. Okay, and they're trying to kill him now. Yeah. We've already witnessed that. So, and they'll try it again.
Yeah, it kind of feels like an inside job. It was just the ladder, the kid by himself.
Oh, this is insane.
Standing down.
And we have the FBI investigating it. So
they're probably the ones behind it or involved.
So whatever the outcome, whatever they prove or disprove, we're in a different place right now. And what the American people that care, and now I'm talking about the sort of the 18 to 99 or 100, whatever the age, whoever can vote, I served in our military. I served in combat operations. I served overseas. Millions of people have given their lives up for this country, for people to have the right to vote, legal citizens to have the right to vote. Go exercise it, and quit bitching, quit complaining about all the problems, around you in your environment, okay? If you don't go and exercise that right that somebody gave you by giving their life for this country, then don't come to me and complain, okay? Don't come to me and whine with your bullshit. Come to me and tell me, what do I need to do? How can I get involved? And I'll guide you in the right direction.
Yeah, and I feel like more patriots need to get involved in politics. Like, we don't want to, but regular people like us are looking at maybe I have a duty to try to save our country.
Right. Go volunteer. Go volunteer to do something. Go find somebody who's running for office in your local level, and you go talk to them or go listen to them, and then decide, is this the type of leader that I want to have, running our school board, running our town council, running our election commission, right?
Yeah, local elections are extremely important. I left San Francisco because it fell apart. The district attorney, the sheriffs, crime went out of control, homeless, the schools stopped teaching math because it was racist, and it's just complete failure. So people
come on, schools. What we're teaching in our school system,
like trannies, and
you can't show those books on television because they're X-rated, and we've got them in elementary schools, libraries, and we have teachers from the National Education Association Teachers Union and the Department of Education, which needs to be eliminated. The doors need to be shut. Throw the keys up on the roof and be done with it. Seriously, Department of Education doesn't need to be reformed. It needs to go away. And you have these teachers in this, and because there are some great teachers out there, but right now they're weaponized, and they don't even know it. The psyop against teachers for years has gotten our teachers to the point where they think that all this shit is okay.
Yeah, a lot of them do. And the ones that don't, they get pressured into doing it.
And the tough thing is there's so many people in our country that don't have the choice to be able to send their kids to a private school or a charter school or even homeschool because the mom, principally the mom, has to work.
Like I couldn't imagine sending my kids to
a homeschooling is growing in this country. Homeschooling in this country is growing quite a bit, and I'm a big fan of homeschooling, and I promote it. But a lot of people don't have that choice, particularly in the urban areas. They just don't have the choice.
Yeah, you got to work. It's not easy.
And these are like babysitting centers, and then they bring in all of this filth. And you're kind of going, God, whatever happened to like our education system? We spend more money than the top 10 nation states in the world on education.
Wow.
And we are, seriously. We spend more on education than the next 10 nation states on the planet. And we're down like around number 30 in terms of a rating, educational rating for our children. It's out of control.
Yeah, I think the parents that are in the situation.
Teachers ought to be embarrassed. So if you're a teacher listening to this podcast, and go dig into that stat. Go research it to disprove me.
Teachers have their hands tied too.
Exactly.
Problems, so it's tough.
Well, yeah. So I to a degree I agree with that. Teachers have their hands tied. You know what? Then go do something about it.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Go run for school board. I've met a mom in Wichita, okay, who has 5 children, and she was a teacher. And what did she do? She went to tell the superintendent that she didn't like what they were learning. And she was a busy mom, right?
Yeah.
5 kids. And then so when the superintendent patted her on her little mom head and say, you don't know what you're talking about there, little lady, we got this. We got this under control. Go away. She committed to now then running for office and getting on the school board. She told me the school board, when she initially ran, the school board was 2 kind of like her versus 5 that were over the top, left-leaning socialist Marxist, right? And she made it her life's mission, and they now have all 7 seats on that school board.
Wow, it's awesome.
And they're all like tough moms, right? They're tough women. And so, to me, that's kind of what people have to do.
Yeah, no,
and she was the one, to finish that example, she was the one that then called the superintendent in, school board called the superintendent in, because it's the school board who drives what the superintendent is. The superintendent works for the school board. And she said, Mr. Superintendent, you're fired. You're done. Go away.
That's awesome. Yeah, the thing is, most parents don't want the people that are in there. They just have no option. These parents, they don't want tranny stuff for their kid. They don't want racial stuff being pushed.
Right.
They want their kids to be taught. But even my friends in the liberal places, they don't like it, but they don't speak up. People need to step up and vote in and get rid of these people. It's the only way
we
forward.
need to start speaking out as citizens, because that's what we have a right to do that.
Yeah, that's right.
And we will lose it. No nation in the history of the world that was a democracy and was based on citizens' rights and freedoms that lost that. When they lost that, none of those countries ever got it back. And when you look around the world in different places in the world, and you can go back to the even pre-biblical times in history, I'm talking history of the world and of empires, right? And so what I want people to understand is that we are an experiment. Our founders, when they built this thing, when they created this, they didn't do it over a 3-day weekend drinking, binge drinking. They actually fought for it for, a long, long time. Yeah. And it was decades of thinking and talking and acting and then deciding. and they created this thing, wrote the Constitution, Declaration of Independence, the Bill of Rights. The majority of it is based on biblical values and principles, and they talked about it being an experiment. Let's see if this thing can last, right? I mean, let's see what we can do with this.
I couldn't imagine the politicians today sitting around and coming up with a Constitution and Bill of Rights. Could you imagine? These guys were just such patriots, such innovative, so smart. They really cared about rights.
And they were willing to give up everything that they had, right? That's the beauty.
They were willing to die for their country.
And many of them did, but they were willing to give up everything in order to find something and to create something that we now have. So you and I can have this discourse, on the airwaves.
Country out there. We can't let it go.
And I can talk about this president or that president. That's the freedom that we have, and we're going to lose that. We are. Yeah,
Europe's losing
it's
freedom
eroding.
of speech. They're arresting people for Facebook posts and stuff over there right now.
Right, in the UK.
No guns, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's unbelievable that the business with the guy posted something on Facebook, and I think Facebook actually helped the UK. That's another problem with Facebook. But yeah, they're gonna arrest them, and they talked about in the last 24 hours with X and Elon Musk. I mean, if the UK, I can't imagine Elon passing through the UK now. They'd probably try to arrest him.
Yeah, it's wild.
Honestly, it's wild. I mean, that's the UK. The United Kingdom just went through their elections last couple of months, and then they got a new prime minister. But the UK is rapidly becoming a socialist state.
It's almost there.
And it's like when you look at it, you go, and it's the Labor, right? Labor is the party that's in charge. And Labor is kind of like our Democrat Party, right?
Yeah.
So I think that what we have to understand is that we have a couple of months left until we actually go down one of two paths. One path is the path of sort of democracy, constitutional republic, rule of law based, and we continue to act as free citizens in a society. The other path is we become a communist country, and that will happen overnight.
Like us,
and I'm not saying like overnight, like by January if we lose it, but in the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, people like us and speaking up will be rounded up and put into camps. So
right. So
but I think it's important we do. I mean, we're going to lose the country if we don't.
Yeah, it's just crazy. So how long have you been doing this podcast?
I just started like a month ago, but I have good reach. It's building pretty quick. I have a ton of good guests, a lot of people, good reach on Twitter. So it's been fun. I love having these conversations.
When your name came up, I was like, oh yeah. I mean,
yeah, that's why I heard you're here.
I'm a big fan, and I think that people. People want, they just want people, they'll resonate to somebody.
Want real conversation.
Yeah.
People just trying to sit there and talk, and, occasionally I might argue with someone, but I'm trying for the most part not arguing with people, having people I want to talk to.
Exactly.
I'm not trying to get someone I want to argue with. I want people to have interesting conversations.
And also not to, whether or not we agree on anything or everything.
We can do it politely though. That's the way I like to do it.
And it's also, I think people are looking for, they're looking for, am I alone in this? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Knowing other people think like that, and that helps a lot of people realize.
Yeah, and what I want people to understand, your audience and your growing audience, I want them to understand that they're not alone out there. I go around this country all the time. I've been around the country 3 or 4 times now in the last couple of years, and I mean when I say go around the country, we've had the Reawaken America tour, 25 cities. We did our film tour. Mm-hmm. We did 33 cities. And it's all hard work.
Yeah.
But part of it is, as I talk to people, and I'm talking grassroots people, just salt of the earth Americans, and from all walks of life. And when I talk to them, it's the same, like everybody kind of feels the same way.
Yeah.
And I want them to know that, the way you feel here in Nevada is the way they feel up in, Bow, Washington, or is the way they feel in Rapid City, South Dakota, or the way they feel in Ronkonkoma, New York. I mean, it doesn't matter.
Right and left aren't that far. So
right
there's a few
left,
lunatics on either side, but most of them, they want the same thing.
Yeah.
They want what's better for the country.
Exactly.
Most people are good. Black, white, brown. The majority of people want what's better for the country.
Yep.
It's just being played against each other by them.
Yeah. And there is a big PSYOP game going on.
Seems intentional to me. And you probably know more than me.
Oh, it's terrible. And it's being maneuvered by our government, by elements inside of our government, along with the media, the corporate media, and in many cases with Hollywood. And we throw out Hollywood as like it's one big blob, because there's good people in Hollywood, but Hollywood as a part of the corporatocracy, this corporate grip, this corporate chokehold, right? Like you would understand chokeholds. So this corporate chokehold that Hollywood has still on the influence of particularly children. You look at some of the various movies that they put out, and you kind of go, "What the hell?" Yeah, I mean, I got kids, I got grandkids.
Warfare, yeah.
I got grandkids that I like to watch a good movie with them, because they like that particular thing, and I'm looking at this, I'm going, wait a second, that ain't right.
Yeah, the things they put in there, you watch it, and you're like, wow, kids just not be with kids.
Right, and they're training them to think a certain way. They are influencing them. They are propagandizing. They are psyoping those young people these days. And our society is through TikTok, through Instagram, through social media. And I'm a huge free speech advocate.
Same.
So I'm not one to say, oh, let's get rid of TikTok or let's get rid of this. No, we got to have, allow people to have the judgment. I mean, if this is a free country and we believe in free speech,
the very First Amendment,
and this thing exists, then you should have the right to be able to. You want to go, look at something on it. You want to say something on it. It's up to you.
Yeah, I fully agree. I kept getting suspended on Twitter until Elon took over.
Yeah,
thankfully he bought that. And it's much better
I
now.
got fully talk about suspended on Twitter. I mean, don't put this thing on YouTube because they'll knock it off.
Probably
YouTube.
knock it on.
But
Yeah, were you suspended from Twitter and everything?
I was the day Trump got banned is the day I got banned. So I was in the top what was exposed during the Twittergate files, the top 10 people that were suspended of like a large number of people. The top 10, I was number 8.
Wow.
Number 1 was Trump. Number 3 was Rudy Giuliani. There was a couple of companies that were banned because they were America-only companies. And then there was General Flynn.
This was collusion with like the FBI.
For me, I can tell you, it was. I think it was the 8th of January 2021. 8th of January 2021, and they just cut all of us. And what happened was, it's okay. So I'm off of a platform. I can't talk on a social media platform. I can't,
They take your voice away.
They take your voice away.
The sitting president.
I got
How
that.
crazy is that? They took the president's
right.
voice
Still,
away.
he was still the president. And they censored him.
That's absolutely
An
wild.
American company censors the president. Now, the worst thing, though, is, to me, I know a lot of people, they were making their livelihoods off of what they did through their podcasts or whatever, selling products, selling films, selling vitamins, whatever it is.
For living, they just cut it.
Right. Didn't make any difference. And so those people lost, they were trying to pay for their rent. They're trying to pay for their homes. They're trying to pay for their kids. And they didn't care. They don't care about
a lot of it was like they were saying it was misinformation, but it's true. All the COVID stuff ended up being true. The election stuff we still don't know.
Right.
So they're saying it's misinformation. Like, how can we not?
Yeah. The difference between a conspiracy, like they say, the difference between a conspiracy theory and a conspiracy is about 6 months.
That's true.
And
like I was called a conspiracy theorist, but all my stuff kept being right.
Yeah.
I wasn't randomly coming to conclusions. I was like studying it, looking at the data.
Right.
So COVID early on, I knew was a psyop.
Especially COVID. COVID was the one thing that really, I think, got the attention, and it backfired now because initially it was it was really meant to scare the hell out of to cause not just the United States, but to cause the globe, to shut the globe down, to kind of maneuver the globe to do different things that these elites wanted, not just the pharmaceutical industry, but the elites that are running the world.
Killed so many small businesses.
Yeah, but it backfired because as those of us that stood against it, pastors that kept their doors open, small businesses that said we're not going to shut down. This is a mask-free zone, breakfast place. And I remember going into. I remember the one that I'm thinking about, and stuff like that. So who stood their ground? Maybe they caught some grief. Some pastors who I know got arrested, got thrown in jail. Eventually released, but they stood up. All those businesses, those pastors, those churches, they've grown because they stood their ground. And when the American people, when we stand our ground, we were talking about this earlier, the Bud Light thing, right? I mean, when the Bud Light stuff came out, everybody went, the very famous Kid Rock, taking a shot at a can of Bud Light. But the American people said enough is enough. COVID, we've said enough is enough. And we don't believe it anymore because too many of us, like myself, I know people that have died because of that.
Yeah, I think
guys that should be alive today, very healthy people that should be alive today, are now dead and they didn't deserve it. Their families didn't deserve it.
And people died alone during COVID too. They were in hospitals. They couldn't see them. It was so shameful, the whole thing.
Yeah.
That's actually when I started using. I never used Twitter. I started using it then. My management, everyone's like, "Hey, you can't do this." I'm like,
Right.
I got to speak up. I can't live like this.
Right.
They're telling me to mask. Everyone had stores. I'm like, I'm not going to walk around with a mask on my face. I just couldn't do it and had to.
We were talking about remdesivir, right? Remdesivir, which was one of the things. Remdesivir. If you're given remdesivir, you're going to die of renal failure.
They were killing people
Disgusting.
in the hospitals with that and the ventilators.
Yeah.
It was wild.
PCP, the testing that they would do, it was like wrong, like because it would when you would test for COVID, right? It was like rated at like 25 times. The test was actually higher.
Yeah.
And so it would automatically say, "Oh, you got COVID." You might not even feel anything, but now you got COVID, so now you got to
2 weeks quarantine.
Oh my God! And you're quarantined, and next thing, and they're sticking you on ventilators, which were then
that was killing people.
It killed people. I mean,
they never came out and said it, but they quietly stopped using them. If you notice, because they knew it was killing people, so they just kind of pulled them away.
Right. So I just, the American people, and particularly young people, I mean, people have to start to think for themselves.
Yeah.
And quit being sheepish about it.
And speak up.
And speak up.
Speak up.
Yeah, it's time to stand up, step up, and speak up.
You realize other people believe what you do. Like I was living in San Francisco, I started speaking up against this, the trans athletes, all this. People kept coming up to me privately. "Oh, I agree with you." I'd have like 7 people in the same group come tell me privately. I'm like, well, half of the group agrees with me. Why don't you guys all just speak up?
Right.
They're too scared to say it.
Because they're too afraid. They don't want to be called out. They don't want to have their name, nasty name called in the newspaper.
They will go after you. I've been smeared I've been smeared all kinds of hate mail articles.
I mean, and I don't know, if you were stopped from being able to have any competitions or anything like that or sponsors.
Yeah, the fighting was all shut down. That was actually the first year I retired, which was really hard as a man when you need to work, right? And I was kind of getting into new fields. And I'm just stuck in my house doing nothing. And like, I need to work. I don't do well sitting around.
Right.
So they're telling me you can't work, you can't go out, you have to wear a mask. And I didn't have like a job at the time. They shut down the gym that I was running, which never reopened. So it was just, they killed so many businesses in San Francisco.
It's unreal. And, there's so many stories like this, and we did not deserve it. And the people that impose this on us still need to be held accountable, as we were talking about accountability.
No one's been arrested for that
Fauci and some of these other people. There's also people overseas, and there are people that need to be held accountable. Our country cannot move forward unless there's an accounting of these people that committed all these egregious things, from Russiagate, to the COVID nightmare that we've lived through, to what's happening to President Trump, to this attempted assassination of him the other day. I still, the hydraulics on his plane caused his plane to go down the other day.
Wow, I missed that.
An emergency landing, going into Montana for his rally that he had in Montana. I mean, assassination attempt, every single screw, every nut, everything that surrounds Donald Trump, everything has to be scrutinized to an nth degree. And he's got government resources that are supposed to be able to do that for him now, to include Secret Service, and anything else that he needs should be scrutinized. And for that plane to have had to make an emergency landing, I think it was they emergency landed in Billings, and the rally was in Bozeman. But for that to happen, did they not check it back at the starting point at the departure airfield? Did they not look at these things? I mean, for hydraulics, it's a Boeing aircraft. So anyway, when I look at the totality of what is happening, I'm like, man, so now we're looking at a guy who's trying to be president of the United States, and we know that one president was assassinated while he was the president. That's John F. Kennedy.
Suspicious circumstances, but
a Democrat, and also I want your liberal friends to know that. And I was a Kennedy Democrat. My whole family were Kennedy Democrats. And then Robert Kennedy, running for office, a Democrat. He's the leading candidate, Democratic Party. He gets assassinated. Okay. Because they don't want people that are in there that are going to go after these organizations and hold them to account. They do not want people that will do that. And so that's why I'm still, while they still fear, Mike Flynn going back into government. They hate the fact that think that if Trump wins, General Flynn's going to go back and do something in government.
Yeah, I have a question. Did Trump ask you to resign, and did you feel betrayed if so? Or did you feel like you just had to do it because of the situation?
Yeah, no, he did. He asked me to resign, and part of it was because of I was
pressure on him.
Yeah, and it was because I wasn't going to get between him and the vice president, two duly elected people. He appointed me, and and I'm a military guy, so it's like, okay, this is what you want?
Yeah.
But what I witnessed at the time, and what I now know for certain, is that Mike Pence had a lot to do with it.
Yeah.
And Trump, I don't think. I do know. He felt like if they moved me out of the White House, that they'd
maybe leave him alone.
It would go away.
Yeah, I get why he did it, but I would still feel a little betrayed.
And it is what began it. It exacerbated it to no end. And once I was out, it was like, throwing it for any fisherman buddies that you got out there. It was like throwing chum, bloody chum in the back of a boat, and the sharks started coming around.
Yeah, that investigation was insane.
Once they got rid of me, because I was the only one in the White House at the time that knew how to deal with these things, and they knew that they had to work overtime to get me out of there, and they did.
Yeah, because you understand how the system works.
Well, and having run an intel agency and just starting in, and this is a big job. These are huge responsibilities, and on a daily basis, you got a ton of things that you have to accomplish on behalf of the people of the country and on behalf of the President of the United States. And, because people go, oh, why didn't you know? You had to be in my shoes at the time, and you're talking about the government led by a former president, as I already explained, the 5th of January, 2017. And all people got to do is
where can people find that? By
if
the way,
they watch this film, they can go to flynnmovie.com, flynnmovie.com. And what I ask people, because even you're like yourself, I want people to watch that film, and I don't care what walk of life you're from. You watch that film, and you're going to say to yourself, "Oh my God, I did not know," and because what this film is, it's the truth. It's not my version of it. Okay. This is, for me to call out the President of the United States of America, for me to call out the Vice President of the United States of America, 2 of them actually, calling them out, for me to call out the other senior, Director of the CIA, Director of National Intelligence, Director of the FBI, Attorney General, Presidents of the United States, Vice Presidents of the United States, for me to personally call them out, I couldn't have done it. Right, I can't just make shit up.
Yeah,
I can't.
Definitely want to watch that.
No, I mean the clearance that I had to go through with that was excruciating, and that's why, frankly, for months it's been number one. Yeah. Because when people go watch it, they're like, because people will have an impression of General Mike Flynn, because of what they read on a headline.
You got a lot of newspapers against you, I imagine.
I've been called,
Conspiracy
every
theorist.
single name in the book, every name. You throw out a nasty name, I've been called it. And so like sticks and stones can break my bones, but names will never hurt me, right? That's an old thing that my mom used to teach us. But you watch that film, and then you come back and talk to me. And you say to yourself, okay, now I realize what we're up against.
Yeah, there's a million things I'd like to talk to you about, but since we're on a time crunch, let's circle back and talk about war a little bit, since you're a general.
Oh, my God. We're in war. We're in a war.
There's so many things that go this way.
Yeah,
what's your thoughts on Ukraine-Russia war?
Oh, my God.
I'm not a fan of it,
well, people should go back. People should listen to what Putin just put out in the last 24 hours. He gave a statement basically 24 hours ago, made a speech, very, very important one for everybody to listen to, because Putin basically just threw the gauntlet down and said, I'm done with this shit. And so now, because NATO has been constantly encroaching, NATO has been tough talking, and frankly, there's a lot of military guys and experts that'll go, well, you're full of it. We got to, you had Lindsey Graham, Senator Graham, and Senator Blumenthal, who's a stolen valor senator from Connecticut, totally stolen valor. He's a piece of shit. Those 2 senators are standing in Ukraine like 2 days ago or yesterday, talking about how we got to give more, we got to give them F-16s, we got to give them more stuff, more money. Why? What is so special about Ukraine, right? Has nothing to do with Russia. Russia cannot do anything more than they're doing right now, other than using their nuclear weapons. Exactly. Right?
I read
the Middle East. The Middle East is on fire, and we do not have the ass, the United States of America, the naval component commander, United States Navy, naval component commander for all of that region of the world, for the United States, said the other day, essentially, that right now, we cannot control what the Houthi rebels in Yemen are, how they're acting. Never mind Iran, never mind Hezbollah, never mind Hamas, never mind the what's going on in Iraq, which we're losing. We've lost Iraq. Never mind the retreat from Afghanistan. Never mind the Pakistanis who have nuclear weapons. Never mind the fact that we've got North Koreans now operating with Iran. I mean, all these things at that sort of strategic 60,000-foot view, now you take it down to the tactical view, and Iran just fired missiles at our guys, and we have at least 3 dead, probably some other number wounded. You can't tell.
Yeah.
We have at least 3 guys that got killed the other day, U.S., by Iran.
To me, I think we might disagree on this one, but I feel like I feel like Israel's trying to instigate a war there, and they're trying to bring U.S. in it. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think Israel was foolish on how they secured their southern border, but Israel didn't start this one. The brutality
seems like they kind of let them through. It seemed like to me, but
well, and so I've asked for that. I've asked for that kind of the 7th of October, absolutely brutal attack, raping, murdering babies, and taking hostages.
Was exaggerated, but
I've seen the videos.
There's definitely been bad stuff, but I mean, it seems like they're overreacting.
If you rape a 3-year-old,
yeah, I don't.
Okay, you sexually abuse a 3-year-old.
Yeah.
In their own home.
Yeah.
I mean, that it's like, so the disgusting, and I've seen this in this society, so the disgusting behavior by segments in this society that we're facing, and we're facing it right here, is and there are still U.S. hostages being held.
Israeli people torturing and raping people too. That seems kind of
So the recent one,
that should be called out by America.
And I think that we all ought to call that out.
Yeah.
That's this recent
that out even.
That's this recent thing where these Israeli soldiers were gang raping some of these people, these Palestinians. That ought to be just. I mean, it's immediately called out. I want to see accountability of them.
Yeah.
We need to see accountability of that kind of stuff, and that's the kind of stuff that has to.
Yeah,
you have to constantly guard against these units that get out of control and lose the discipline that they're supposed to maintain, and like I say, maintain the moral high ground, because warfare is not fair. But in terms of if you're asking if Israel wanted to get their asses kicked and be destroyed, I can't buy that. I don't buy that.
I feel like they're trying to get America to come in and fight for them. That's my theory.
We're in there. We're already. It's not getting America in. We're there. We're paying for the whole thing.
Yeah,
we're paying for Iran to fight. We're paying for Hezbollah to fight.
So wild.
We're paying for Israel to fight. We're paying for Hamas to fight. We pay the Palestinian Liberation Organization. We give money to Yemen. We give money to Saudi. We give money to Jordan. We give money to Iraq. I mean, we give money to every single country in the Middle East. We give billions to Iran. Iran gives that money to Hezbollah, Hamas, the Houthi rebels.
All sides
we're paying for the whole goddamn thing.
Yeah, so we're just funding. This is going back to weapons manufacturers.
Your point about Israel is kind of they're enticing this, or they're causing this. The one thing that I know is that I've been in and out of the Middle East a lot, served many, many years in combat in the Middle East and in Central Asia, and I've been in and out of Israel plenty of times and worked with the Israelis. The Israelis are not cutting the heads off of Christians, okay?
Yeah,
the Israelis there may be behavior of Israeli soldiers, and I got that, and I don't accept that.
It seems like the bombings too. They seem to me like indiscriminate, just hitting schools and refugee camps and.
Yeah, well, so we bombed Dresden, we firebombed, we dropped bombs that would turn into fire on cities of people.
But was that
in World War II.
Was that a good thing, you think, or you think that was really necessary?
Yes, I do. To destroy the will of the German population at the time when we were fighting the Nazis. Otherwise, you and I'd be, praying at the altar of Adolf Hitler. We dropped 2 atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The first one that we dropped, the Japanese would not quit, and there was an ultimatum: if you don't quit, if you don't surrender, we're going to do it again. And they flinched.
I remember seeing Eisenhower read that he didn't think it was necessary in his opinion. I mean,
many people decided. Many people advised Truman when they were asked, and then in memoirs after the fact said, that they weren't necessary. Well, I mean, if you look at, the war and whether or not the war was going to continue on, particularly in the Pacific, there were estimates of another 500,000 American servicemen that would have been killed had they had to continue to fight up the islands of Japan. So
yeah, I've heard conflicting things. I've heard exactly what you said, but I've also heard some of these other generals say it was unnecessary. So it's hard to judge history when you're not there.
Yeah, I mean, but there's plenty of history to study. There's plenty of stuff to study. I mean, warfare is not fair. It's not fair. But if you want to win, and you have a national, you have a potential where your country is going to be destroyed, and we didn't start the war in Europe. We didn't start the war in the Pacific. I mean, you can go back and you can look at history. And you can say, well, we knew certain things, and we allowed the Japanese to attack Pearl Harbor. I mean, there's all kinds of
Yeah, there's so many different opinions.
That.
It's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard to know what's true today. That's why it's hard to know what's true.
But if
history.
we're going to lose this country to Nazism or to imperialism or to communism, and it requires things that frankly, I'm a warrior. Okay, you're a warrior, different category, but I'm a warrior, and I look at the trends of history and how to win wars. We haven't won a war since World War II.
That's true. I was thinking that the other day. I was going to look through. I'm like, wow, we've lost all these wars.
Every single war. Every single one for the last 50, 60 years. All we've done is we've lost lives, we've lost prestige, we've lost treasure, and here we sit and we're like, and we're continuing to just participate in these wars, and so I'm anti-stupid war.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know sometimes you need a war. I'm a warrior, so I understand sometimes you're ready to fight, but for the most part, I think it's good for U.S. not to be paying for foreign wars.
Yeah.
That's kind of my position.
I mean, to go back to the war in the Middle East, like I said, I mean, I know these countries, and I know the mentality and the attitudes and all the different things that we're up against, and Israel. Whatever, and all this noise about Zionists and the Jewish people and what the Jews do and what the Jews don't do and what they control, what they don't control. All I would ask people to do is look at the behavior of nation states in that particular region, because that region is affecting our country right now.
Yeah.
Okay, like I just said, we are paying for the whole thing. The United States taxpayer is paying for the whole thing. There's no declared war.
Yeah.
The president doesn't talk about it. The Congress doesn't do anything about it. We just keep, flooding those countries with money, billions and billions and billions of dollars.
Yeah,
it's
just wild.
It's insane. No, it's not. It's beyond wild.
I don't think there'd be much of a war. People would realize they would have to get peace.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is something in the debate we could go in more later.
Oh my God, I love it. I love it.
We have to go in a few minutes. Yeah, because me, I do feel like AIPAC and all them have way too much control in America.
Yeah, way too much influence. Way too much influence.
Yeah. Let's end on one last thing. I want to. What's your thoughts on drone warfare? I think it's. I think you were actually one of the early guys on that, and I have very mixed feelings. I think it's absolutely brutal watching them kill civilians, but then it's also like we want to save American lives.
Yeah, I mean, don't get hung up on the killing civilians or because of drones. I mean, there are clearly civilian casualties in warfare. I do think that the drones as a capability are they're extraordinary. They have many applications: intelligence, surveillance, weaponry as a weapon system. We actually we're going to have to recreate some of our own defense mechanisms because of the new types of drones that are being built by other countries. And a lot of that technology is stolen from us. So,
yeah.
I mean, the kinds of things that they're doing with drone warfare, weaponizing a drone with a bomb, is deadly. And of course, you can bring it in and you can swarm and you can do all kinds of things. So, I mean, I like to think that I was part of perfecting drone warfare and using it in different applications, particularly in the early days. I've been actually part of either training or being trained on drones since 1985. Okay,
Wow, you were earlier.
1985. Yeah, people can go back. Aquila was one of the ones that I first learned on. And then another one that we used when I was in 1989, we used to use it in one of the units that I was in. So I've been dealing with drones for a long, long time. I know a lot about them. Drones are a very effective weapon system. They're much more, they can be much more precise. What we have to have is we have to have we have to really work hard on intelligence to make sure that the intelligence that we give to our commanders who are making decisions to go out and basically to kill somebody or to cause damage to something, that it's done, it's done in a way that gives us an advantage and doesn't take away our prestige, right? I mean, there are rules of war, right? Yeah. And the thing that you got to understand is that we, as Americans, are taught the rule of war from the time you're a private in the army, and the enemies that we face don't follow any of it.
Yeah, that's the thing. I hate drones, but the fact if your enemies have them, you have to have them. So it's kind of one of those things. You have no choice but to adapt, or you're going to fall behind.
I got a split.
Okay, let's go then.
I got a split.
Again. So thanks so much for
awesome, brother. And, thank you so much.
Thank you for doing this last
Appreciate
minute.
it.
That was great. We'll talk again some other time.
Great.
I can usually keep going another hour.
I know it. Oh my God, is that what you do? You do more than an hour?
No, I usually do like about 90 minutes. I think that's like the perfect amount.
Okay. I know we got to get going. We're running late.